Hello, visitors of the internets, and welcome to episode 3 of Stairway Mountain Hill Climb, where today we will be piloting the Mobile of the Chevrolet Caprice up the hill, this particular model being a diesel, as you might be able to hear. And I'm basically hoping and praying the audio is good on this take, because I did try before and it failed badly, and then it ended up messing my wood because I was trying to fix the audio while driving, which is never a particularly good thing to do. And I'm sorry to cut myself off here like this, but for whatever reason my PC goes completely mad when I try and record the narration at the same time as playing BeamNG and capturing that audio, and basically the audio file gets all distorted in a way it doesn't if I'm not playing the two together. So I have to do it this way, and as you'll see, the diesel did spin up the wheels there. That is not something you see often from a 126 horsepower vehicle like this, and it is really quite easy to pilot because of the high torque that the diesel provides. You'll see I'm able to, around corners, accelerate quite easily, and even when I'm flooring it though, it is not a quick car. It has good initial acceleration because of the torque the diesel provides, but still the overall high-end performance isn't here. I would say it's outperformed by the diesel Pigeon, as a matter of fact, just because it's so heavy. But at least in this kind of vehicle, where all you have to do is get up to, say, 69 horsepower, miles per hour, and then just leave it there, it's fine. And I mean, I'm not saying 69 because it's a weird joke or anything. I'm saying it because that is actually the highest top speed I got with this car. So yeah, that's one way of seeing things. The suspension and, well, tyres and chassis and everything about it is very, very soft. It doesn't make too much difference though, as it's not a high enough performance car for these things to really play in yet. It's only if you start throwing about 300 plus horsepower you would really start to notice the problems with the suspension. Maybe a bit less than 300, but still 124 horsepower is nowhere near the limits. The limits are much higher than that, and overall, I enjoyed driving it, but it's just a slow vehicle, you know. It's not hard to drive at all. It's lovely to drive, even. And the time it set wasn't half slow. It was just a shade under 9:46 seconds, which puts it below everything, other than the Leguan I tested, naturally. So yeah, that Leguan would probably even set a better time if I was really thrashing it up the hill instead of just breaking it up. Yeah, but it was basically a demolition derby car by the time that finished. But yeah, it's slow. It's barely beaten by a Satsuma 210. But then speed isn't the intention. If you wanted speed, you probably wouldn't have bought the diesel, would you now? Now here we have an ETK 800 series, more specifically the 856 TT Sport Plus, meaning it is an all-wheel drive version of a TT Sport with about 315 horsepower. I think that's the power going to the wheels and not the engine power though, so perhaps there's more if you look at the engine. And actually, as much as it pains me to say it, this is a very nice thing to drive. The rear does get sliding if you want it to, however it's very easy to catch. It's not slidey in the same sense the Hirochi Sunflare like to be slidey. Speaking of which, this I believe is a heavier car, but the brakes are still phenomenal for what it is. It just gets slowed incredibly well. Now, the hill climb vehicles, don't go expecting it to beat them. I mean, it's significantly down on power, and it is just a heavier old road-going estate car with all the luxuries you could ever want from a car. So it's not perfect, but I think it does a pretty good job of hiding its weight, and because it's an estate, you still get the practicality of all that boo and the 5 seats and everything, which just don't exist on a lot of quick cars. So that's always a positive. Plus, it's probably going to be fairly reliable, at least until the warranty runs out. Maybe when the warranty runs out, you're going to have the full-on, let's say, BMW experience, where you buy a 15-year-old BMW and everything on it breaks. But for the time when it's a relatively new, relatively modern car, it should be reliable. And we have this car going over these bumps. As you'll see, yeah, the wheel does get sliding, but it's relatively easy to catch it. I actually had to adjust my wheel though, because it was far too quick with this car as it was. So I had to adjust that so my wheel, I guess, moved the wheel on screen slower and made the car more manageable. It's just very responsive in that sense. And I was remarkably impressed by it. That's all I have to say. Very, very quick on the straights as well. I was able to hit 100. It could have probably done more with better driving. I'll be honest about that. I'm not a perfect driver. I take no shame in admitting it, really. It's just the reality of the situation. I'm no Ken Block. And whoever else you might think of, probably loads of Formula 1 drivers. Yeah, if I try and drive a Formula 1 car, it'll end up in a wall or off a cliff. So the fact that I can handle this car and that I can extract as much speed from it as I can is truly quite impressive. Speaking of speed, well, it's remarkably close to the Hirochi Sunflower I mentioned just a little earlier. The Hirochi Sunflower set a 733.698, see where I'm going with this? And this, ETK, set a 733.797, so it's within 0.1 seconds of the Sunflower's time. That is truly remarkable though, just how close they are. Like, that could be one gear shift. That could be one missed corner on the speed front. So this is probably technically the quicker car, because I didn't have to spend so many runs taking this to the end, given how easy to drive it is. But yeah, the pillars amazingly didn't get in the way. These ETKs are known for having pretty chunky pillars. But still, I think we've said about all that can be said about this, so on to the next vehicle. So, here we have the Cortu Duo-mobile. I mean, just look at that colour scheme. Perfect blue and silver colour scheme. Anyway, the actual name of this is the Roma XL V8 4-wheel drive XT 7-seater. So basically a 7-seater SUV boat thing. It's quite powerful as well at 238 horsepower, but as you'll see here, it does handle a bit like a boat. Now, it's remarkably well tuned for something that is an SUV. Remember, this is not a low-slung road car like the old full-size was, and you can feel that in the suspension. You can feel it's firmer as you go into corners, and it's more understeery due to the all-wheel drive system. But if you know when to brake, when to accelerate, and when to just coast around the course, you can get some very, very good performance out of this. And I'll get onto that later, but really the speed of this thing needs talking about as well, as that is reasonable. Remember, this is not a ultra high performance vehicle by any means. It's got an automatic transmission, so you know you won't be going crazy fast anywhere because of that. But it can still get up to 85 miles per hour, which is a good 15 more than the old full size we've seen today. And yeah, in the grand scheme of things, quite an impressive speed. Although it competes with much lesser powered vehicles, it's not too bad in that respect. It does go. I would have liked a manual, but again, it's more of an everyday usable car than it is a sports car, so it would just be pointless sticking a manual in it when it's going to be used for that type of purpose. It's supposed to be used for, well, picking up groceries and dropping kids off and whatever. But anyway, that does bring us on to the time, which, as I said, quite impressive considering how boaty and large it is, and how well it manages the weight and for what it is, this is 2.4 plus tons, remember. It is 844.099 as the time it's set, and that is just under 4 seconds quicker than the Moonhawk NASCAR. So, yeah, it's quicker than an old NASCAR. Man, that could do nothing with the power. Whereas, as I say, this is very controllable, if a bit understeery. So, no problems there, about what you would expect it to be. It has also been beaten by the Maluch by just under 10 seconds again, and that's fairly impressive, you know. That was a very light, agile car, particularly on the higher parts of the course. So for it to compete with something like that, that's not bad, you know. And below the Covet tofu delivery and everything else as well. So, with all this being said, on to the next vehicle. So, our next vehicle is the Bishu Kashira 3.5 ZX. Yep, powered by a powerful V6, actually, making about 177 horsepower, just a hair underneath that. And it is reasonably powerful, actually, for a car from the late 80s, early 90s, based on the 80s Pessimo, I believe. Or first generation Pessimo, as you might decide to call it. And you'll see it's got a not two speed transmission, but it has got about 3 usable gears in its manual transmission before you just don't get quick enough to use any more gears than that. It does corner well for what it is though, and this is front wheel drive, remember, this is no all wheel drive minivan. This is the front wheel drive model, because in my acceleration ones I noticed that this beat the all-wheel drive with the same engine, since I guess it's just not worth it with this power level. So this is the car I am using, since I just believe it's better. You also get great visibility, as you would from any MPV. Just look at it. If it only had a sunroof, you would have a lovely sky dome to see out of. But still, it's cornering, yeah, it does understeer a bit, and it's not going to handle as well as the Pessimo it's based off of. It is a much taller vehicle though, so what can we expect there? It's not going to handle like a sports car, and it so clearly isn't a sports car. As far as straight line speed goes, well, it'll go about 2, maybe 3 miles per hour quicker than the Roma on this course, so no problems there in particular. Although the gearbox is dreadful in its gearing. I mean, it just really needs closer gears and maybe a bit grippier tyres even, because it cannot beat the Roma in its current state, and I feel that's why. Just if only it had better tyres, and if only it had that better gearbox, it would be a truly monstrous performance. But it just can't do that because of those parts holding it back. I mean, it is an MPV, so the gear ratios will never be designed for ultimate performance. However, if you're buying the V6 variant, surely you expect at least some level of performance. It is a ZX as well, which is a sporting lineup, so surely you would expect something. Anyway, more specific, the time it's set. It is a 9 minutes to 0.858 second time, which is the crucial thing here, being it is over 15 seconds slower than the Roma. Over 10 seconds slower than the NASCAR, but that's not too surprising, it's an MPV. But the fact that it's that much slower than the Roma is for the reasons I mentioned. The chassis has the capability to be pushed to that level, I believe. Despite being an MPV, it's got potential, it's just not built to a decent enough level to use it. And that's a shame, really. It is still 25, almost 25 seconds ahead of the Pigeon Turbo diesel though, and the Satsuma 210 and Caprice diesel, so hey, we're not at the very bottom of the leaderboard. And it is actually the first car to come this close to setting a 9-minute time. So there's been cars above this and there's been cars below this, but this is very close to the 9-minute mark. I'll be interested in the future to see if more cars fall around this performance mark. So that should be interesting to see. But anyway, having a look at the damage on the car, we will see that there was actually some odd front alignment damage, but very minor. I mean, it's a very grippy car, not too huge, so it's quite easy to pilot up the hill, all in all, and no major damage problems occurred. On to the next vehicle. So, next up we have our final vehicle, the H-Series camper upfit. It's, I believe, got the same engine as the Roma we used, and it is even a gav wheel as well and everything, so no surprises there, although it is much less aerodynamic, much heavier. That's something we have to really bear in mind, as we do attempt to floor it off the line, and there's just nothing. Also, an automatic transmission, it never particularly helped with power delivery, since automatic transmissions are just a kill around this course. They really are. Maybe not so much downhill, but uphill they are. I noticed, however, though, that when I was careful and when I made sure I was in the right gear, putting power down to both rear wheels, it could actually help. That's why I redid this one from the one you're seeing, but that one was stuttery and I didn't want to use the clips, so this is the clip you're seeing. Anyway, you'll see here, as long as I'm careful, it's good. Although it does seem like it's lifting a rear wheel at times and not putting the power down as effectively as it could when it does such. So that is another thing. You have to just be careful with your racing line. You also have to turn in very, very early because it's not a responsive vehicle at all. The actual turning it has is not bad. It's just, it takes ages to actually register what you have done with the vehicle. Like you'll see there, I went to the side, but I think that was just a lot of the result of me turning a bit too late. Or actually on time in any other car, but on this vehicle, no, a bit too late. So that's the thing. And as far as the ride quality goes, it's pretty good. Although it will be firm at times, it's not bad. And the roll is remarkably well managed. For a vehicle this tall, the fact that it rolls so little is truly, truly impressive. As far as the top speed, I saw it go 70, nothing above. So that is a statement in itself. It is not quick in terms of outright speed, although I believe I've seen worse than that. I believe the Satsuma 210 perhaps might have been worse than that, so in itself it's not terrible. Even if for the power output it's terrible, remember, it's a van, a camper van even. There's only so much you can learn to expect from these vehicles. It's not even a diesel as well, so we don't have the torque you would expect from a diesel. It's just a petrol having to make do with what it's got on a huge heavy vehicle, and it kind of works, but at the same time it kind of doesn't. As I was saying about the handling, it does get around the taller parts of the circuit, the twistier parts, fine. Although you have to be aware it isn't the most responsive, most sporty vehicle in the world, and the automatic will stand in the way. So the time is a 9 minutes 59.333 time, which is as slow as I've got, but I am still pleased with it. I after all set a sub 10 minute time in a camper van. I mean, that's a statement in itself, but there's no denying it's slow. It's over 3 minutes slower than the leading car, so that's something to say. And we're also beaten by a Caprice diesel, so that's another thing to remember. This is not quick. Again, over a minute slower than the Roma. It's just all that weight, all that aerodynamic drag, it doesn't help it in the slightest. And But I'm sure the H series in later episodes will bring more competition, because this is by no means the competitive H series. I'm sure it even shipped with a supercharger when I was using this a while ago, but for whatever reason the supercharger doesn't come installed anymore, so you're stuck with a 240 horsepower engine, not a 300 horsepower one. That won't have helped its time at all. Anyway, I guess that's all I have to say for now, so until next time, goodbye, until another day!